Yeah, ready. Good afternoon, all. I'm doing a presentation on the ING Hadoop community and how we went from zero to hero, of course. My name is Hijkoop. I'm a platform architect data lake since yesterday evening. Inside joke, sorry. And I'm also the ING Hadoop community lead since 3/4 of a year now. I'm going to take you through the story. First we have, of course, some commercial slides in there by communications of ING. We have 35 million customers, we're in 40 countries, and a lot of employees. ING strategy. And the biggest, well, the summary is basically we're going towards an IT company who also does something in the financial industry. As a bank, you have regulation stuff, like small things like the GDPR and stuff like that, and some fines if you don't comply and all that kind of stuff. Customer behavior is one of the most important things, and the technology fintech. We're very interested in all the fintechs. We're trying to cooperate with a lot of them, even trying to start some up ourselves to see as an example if we can make it work and then incorporate it back into the big ING again. These are the IT pillars, or at least the IT initiatives beneath it. The Hadoop part is covered in the global data management element, and since very recent, our hackathon, which I will discuss a bit later, on the ING private cloud. As a bank, we looked at the public cloud, a bit too risky. So we built our own cloud internally together with a vendor. We bought the EMC hybrid cloud concept, and we're now somewhere up 3.5, the latest implementations for the EMC Dell guys here. With the new strategy of ING and data becoming our new assets, I won't read it out, but a couple of years back we started to see that data is a very big asset for ING in the future and in the financial industry. We had an answer to that. As I said, I won't read it out. Obvious statements. We introduced a data lake architecture. That was a joint venture with IBM. If you want further explanations, please ask questions, raise your hand. I see a lot of photos being taken. Luckily, you have the slides, not me. To position Hadoop into this ecosystem, our current chief information architect, also in this room, won't point him out, but started together with his data architect at that time from the CNG countries, a community. Let's see, we had a lot of initiatives on Hadoop going on. Lost the slide, sorry. Bit of a Wild West, everybody was doing the same, different things, their own installations, but there was a need to learn from each other because the expertise was very scarce. So we joined them up, and you can see in the numbers which countries. Very recently, since this morning, Australia is also joining us in the community as a community member to start participating. In the community, we started sharing everything we did together and came up with a lot of identical stuff. So we decided, well, maybe we should write them down, document it. So we started an orange sharing page and got collecting everything we did. That basically resulted in identifying 4 patterns at the time. Actually 3, because the last one is not really used in this form, and it's not based on Hadoop. You have the file storage pattern, just HDFS. the most common implementation of Hadoop you can have. You have the deep data one. The deep data is actually running your models against production data. And the analytic Hadoop variant, and that's the playground where you develop your models. So where everything is allowed, data is allowed to be inside the environment, but not allowed to go out. Bad presentation, first people leaving. Within the community, as more countries joined, we started consolidating all these patterns and starting to converge our different environments towards a common installation. We're halfway, and the next step is plotting it on a data lake, and it fit. And you see them on the left top side. That's the real-time one. That's not there. That's currently in another big program of ING, architecture program, being developed with a different technology. Three quarters of a year ago, we were together as a community. We tried to meet up in the different countries which are part of our community. And we realized that we did a lot of knowledge sharing between each other, documented everything, learned from each other, implemented each other's things. But we were at the end of the stretch in that route. So if you plot that on the evolutionary classes, we did the genesis, we created, we innovated, we improved, had a lot of prototype environments running, but our business wanted to promote the models they made to production. That means stability, governance, all that kind of stuff. So then you come to the next class, productizing it. And that's where we're at now. That's also the change that was made or felt and decided upon in the community. We wanted to start delivering stuff to the broader sense of ING. So setting the global standards, becoming an authority within ING for everything covering Hadoop. We made a connection with Hortonworks as our support delivery, invited them, and actually did some good implementations based on that. To really make it visible, because it was always on a voluntary basis participation. Of course, the managers had to approve for the traveling. We did. We decided to do a hackathon, so actually make something. Should have skipped this slide. So we organized a week in Amsterdam with everybody coming over. 27 people, 7 countries. And we had 2 goals. To do a full automated deployment of the Hadoop pattern we selected on the ING private cloud. So that's the basic concept is there. You have a GUI, you order the environment, it gets deployed. And like after an hour and a half of deployment, it's fully integrated into the ING ecosystem, and you can start working with it. You can start importing your data. That was the goal. We had 4 days to do that, just office hours, so 9 to 5. First day started with a discussion. If you put 27 engineers together, it always ends up in a discussion. Based on the discussion, we split out in 3 teams. 1 with the Ansible guys, 1 with the guys from the IPC. They were Puppet engineers, so they wanted to do a Puppet. And connecting it to our LDAP system, so we could have user administration automated also. They went to work. Next to that, we also had some data scientists over. actually using to test the system. But because of the time frame, we had to put it all in 1 week. So what we first did is give them an environment, a manual installed environment. And later on, they started using the deliverables and the MPP, the deliverables coming out of the other two teams, both the Puppet one and the Ansible one. As data sets, we used logging of the IPC cloud. We had access to the logging management system. And they started making models to see if it performs on the cloud. And the results were pretty good. We even got some useful insights back into which were fed back into the IPC management systems. So. One of the themes of the presentation, or in the abbreviation of the presentation, was that we did this all without formal approval. We didn't get a project started, we didn't write a PAD and all that kind of stuff. We just did it. And the team grew. Of course, we had some sponsors. You see them there. For the hackathon, getting all these people together on a voluntary basis without budget, without approval. That was a bit of a hassle. But we finally did it. We had dinners arranged afterwards, after each day, with one of the stakeholders or one of the sponsors, which they paid. That's always nice, to keep the cost low. And yeah, I think it overall was a well received. Even by, because most of the sponsors were there when we did the demo at the end of the week. It was well received. And you see that in the next steps later on. Got us momentum to do it further. Still no questions? Yeah. I'm going really fast through my storyline, I like it. If you see where we are now, because we're spread out over all those countries, we know what's happening in all the countries within the community. That we report back. And it's finally there that there are now official roadmaps within ING and the IT organization sponsored by senior management to start working on this and making it a global service within ING. As platform architect, I'm also responsible for rolling it out into the data lake. So that always helps. The ING Private Cloud has been chosen as a global platform to support all these patterns and make it an official service for to be used globally. And the next steps for the community, which we'll be having another one after this on Friday. We will further define the patterns to start productizing them and making them ready for consumption by all entities within ING. And the biggest step there is need for governance. And that will be the biggest struggle, having a community that's fully free and never had any official approval. And keep that motivation and incentive. But still organize governance around it because the products will be used globally. And that was already my storyline. I was expecting some questions, but questions, yeah. Up front with the white t-shirt.
Do you have any resistance from the local countries protecting their own little IT infrastructure?
Not so much as normally when you go out for a centrally governed initiative, because they started with nothing at the time, and they had like 3 people doing within their country doing stuff. And because we shared and all our experiences out of different angles, there was a high learning curve and a lot of reuse possible. So when the people came to our meetings and went back to the countries, they took huge step in their learning curve and in their results. They could produce results within a week of what they learned. So they had a lot of benefits for them, but that indeed was the idea, the benefit of it being a small team basically coming out of nothing. If you have like application development, there's not really much to learn, and there's already a huge install base in the IT organization. This had nothing, and by sharing, it brought a lot of benefits, and therefore there was also a lot of incentive by the managers to let people participate in the community. And by documenting everything and doing a lot of communications towards the stakeholders and the managers of the guys attending, they only saw the benefits. And basically it's getting free engineering capacity for zilch, nothing. Does that answer your question? Yeah. Next one.
One is, what technical challenges do you face in the second is what kind of information you want to retrieve the
Technical difficulties we met is in the very beginning having data in an uncontrolled environment with unknown software. Especially our risk department was very keen on seeing what we were doing. So the technical part was especially integration with all the security services we normally have around our IT systems within the bank. Second biggest scare was putting customer data in there and doing stuff with customer data. That's some technical issues there of getting the data in with the different protocols and different facilities we have. And most of them were risk-related and security-related and unawareness of people on the technique and the technology and what you could do with it. But we got very soon, we got the first results out, and especially the business partners within ING saw great use of that, and that helped in scaring the risk and mitigating any technical issues. And of course, we had our top-of-the-line engineers on it. So, bit of a question on your answer. Yeah? Answering the question. Oh, sorry. One of the things we have, for instance, and that actually made it to production, is.
Maybe you would like to repeat the question.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. What type of information were we looking for? In the beginning, a lot, because we had a lot of wild ideas. But one of them that I can mention, because a lot of them I'm not allowed to mention. One of them, and that's now currently in the mobile app of within the Netherlands, an ING bank, is the saldo. Balance, yeah, the balance predictor. And that's a functionality where you can look into the future what your balance will be in like 2 days, 3 days, a week, a month, based on your history. That's the actual one that made it to production, and it's incorporated in our mobile app now. But those types of things. We had a lot of wild ideas, but we also had a mishap in communicating that to the press by our board members, and that went up in a big flame. So, yeah, most of the events got stopped, especially with the ones with the customer data, and only after strict checks and controls we continued with certain ones, and the balance predictor is one of those.
Strict checks and controls are working very well. You know, how did that add to the life cycle of taking an idea to the organisation? You constantly have to do the controls and checks all the time, or in the case of do it upfront once and then move on?
For now, it's indeed every time a point solution. So we built dedicated for. We have a team in Germany now doing more general stuff and also working with a multi-tenant environment. And in the Netherlands, we also bringing an environment to production, but it's still, not that mature. It needs a lot of maturity to add, and that's also one of the initiatives we have, as in productizing it, making it actually available and usable for everybody. And integrating it with everything. And what we have now done is, for instance, Helmer was a big part in that, now working for Hortonworks, unfortunately. And the integration with our AD to have the user access management system with the Ranger connecting to the AD to have a centralized user access management system. But usually one of the first environments is still big firewall, completely fenced off. And certain people with specific names, specific roles who are allowed to play in that environment, but not general available. And still just creating models, but the models actually currently are still going towards other analytic environments we have running in production. So, is that, yeah? Sir? The balance predictor one is the one that's publicly known. So the rest, I was very strict by communications not to discuss those, unfortunately.
Not everyone has access to the system. How do you do the balance check, balance predictor?
How do we do the balance predictor?
Yeah, because of the thing, it's not a production, it's not in production, not everybody has access. How can you get the balance predictor out of that?
So that one is in production. But what I meant as in not everybody has access, it's especially on the playgrounds, the exploration environments we have, where we just try and find models and find new interesting information. That's very fenced off. In the way to production, finding the model and bringing it to production state, that's a big chunk of work to get it past all the security gates and all the checks that we have. And the balance checker is, or the balance predictor is one of those. No, not really limited. It is a first exercise, successful exercise of implementing all the security around it. But it's specifically fed by our channel system, so the mobile channel we have, and it uses the data in that consolidated environment, which are copies of the backend system. So it doesn't really get its information out of the backend straight from the source system of records, as we call them, so the payments engine, but it gets a copy. And the same copy we use in our channels to speed it up and make it perform. So it works with the copy, but then again, that's specific in that environment, so it doesn't go all the way through the whole network. And it's dedicated to the Netherlands. So.
Moving forward with the what would be the biggest hurdle, you think, to push more services into production?
The biggest hurdle we thought, what would be the biggest hurdle, to repeat the question, sorry. The biggest hurdle we thought would be adoption and getting people to consume the service. But with the whole new strategy, as shown in one of the first slides, there's a very strict push by our senior management and a clear direction on we're going to be one IT organization. Globally, we want to be one bank. So that helped us a bit in getting the mindset straight of our consumers. And now we actually have people coming towards the community as in, I want to be part of it. Especially with the hackathon, we made a lot of PR around that within ING, and that reached a lot of people. So especially countries, besides the 7 participating, there are a lot of countries looking into the issue. And as we can bring a lot of knowledge and already a lot of implementation guidelines, yeah, they get a quick start. So it's only beneficial. Yeah, no. If we change something in Hijkoop, I come from an infrastructure department, so that's my most experience is from the infrastructure element, and it's integrating it within the ecosystem. So we have a lot of enterprise tooling on monitoring and like MCR stuff and all that kind of stuff, and the integration of Ambari and the APIs of Ambari. Yeah, sorry, maybe pissing off some Hortonworks people. I already mentioned it yesterday to them. So, but yeah, the API could mature a bit. And that was the difficulty in integrating it. And that's still a difficulty to integrate it into a bigger landscape. But that's also a challenge for ING because we're a multi-domestic entity at this moment. So every country has its own tools. With IPC, we're taking a huge step forward and creating a global infrastructure platform where we have commonized tools, all API-based. So Fortnite work speeds up on the API stuff. I don't expect any problems, hopefully.
How do you position data lakes in ING in the long run? Are you going to start replacing existing analytical solution, or will you run that in parallel?
Yeah, we're rolling out the data lake currently, and now I have to watch my word because the chief architect is watching. No, we're rolling out the data lake, and we're almost finished. With the last 3 countries are just happening now. The colleague who would present with me is now currently in Australia doing one of those rollouts, so that's why he's not here. And the data lake, basically, in one sentence, is it will be the enterprise memory of ING. So yes, it will replace a lot of systems. We have the system of record, so it won't be part, or it's not meant as a part of the operational banking processes. If it's not there, banking should still go on. But just the enterprise memory with all the history data, and therefore the source for all analytical stuff to get the data from. So basically the data provisioning for the analytic environments. I see a coming from the chief, so not that far off. He's first. He has a difficult question.
2 years ago, we had something in Brussels. I also saw a presentation about ING. I remember there were 2 initiatives. One was more a prototyping environment. The other one sounded like it was moving towards more of a production environment. Did it still take 2 years to get there, or?
Yes and no. There's a lot of exploration environment, so the prototyping indeed. Yeah, because last year it was Alex and Bart, right? Yeah. Yeah, that's the one Helmer was doing. Yeah. Well, you want to tell the story yourself? Okay.
Okay, so 2 years ago we were just starting to build all this stuff. So 2 years ago we added. Oh yeah, okay. 2 years ago, well, I mean, right now I'm with Rotenworks, but I used to be with ING. So I'm not speaking officially for ING right now, so it's all my personal opinions. But the one we did 2 years ago was we were just building the data lake. We were struggling with getting the basic patterns together. So patterns that Barry introduced in his talk, we were just finding them. And what we had was a data exploration cluster, completely firewalled off and basically as a playground for a selected group of data scientists. So ING has matured enormously ever since. And I'm really proud and happy that I had a chance to be part of that process. And I'm also very, very proud and happy to work with ING because it has grown much beyond the standard customer and vendor relationship. It's really more like a throwing level. I can say it all now.
And besides that, 2 years for going to production within a bank. Pretty fast.
Maybe, Barry, you can elaborate a little bit on how building community actually helped us in bringing this to a very, very complex landscape like ING with multi-country. I think that would be worthwhile sharing.
True. Unfortunately, I wasn't there for the first a year and a half, but no, what my colleagues did was engineers like to talk about engineering and technical stuff. So no architects, or barely any architects were involved at the time. 2, you and Alex, right? But more as a facilitator, especially now as a sponsor of the group. And finding common ground, and Alex played a big part in that. He's very good at sensing and people and getting them to cooperate and getting a team building feeling in there. And there's easy things we did, visiting each country. Every time there's a new country joining, we visit them. And the whole group goes there for 2 days or 3 days. We join, let the managers join, invite the C-level guys there to see what we have, to show what we have, and to show the benefits we have. And yeah, basically let the results speak for itself. I think, yeah, that's... You want to add anything? Because yeah, I missed a big part of the community before I joined. But
well, if I may add a word, so I saw like 4 big pillars, right? So the community orange sharing page and wiki to share knowledge and documentation, regular community meetings in different places every time, deep dive sessions in between, and thought that we recently added is the hackathons.
Maybe for me to add a few things to that. So very much letting the people actually discover themselves that they have more in common and not us telling them that they needed to work together. That was a big one. Especially also in the evening, going out together, having a few beers, talking about other things, building that personal relationship across those countries. But people who never met each other before, but all of a sudden they had to work together and they were learning that they like to work together. So I think in the first few meetings, we had only like 10 people showing up. But after 2 meetings, we had like 20, 30 people sometimes that we also want to be part of that. We actually had to tell people, we can't take like everybody because we can't have a community meeting of 100 people. So it was really this feeling that they had a mandate with the company to build stuff. That made it interesting for them, and that made it actually also accepted to all the countries, because I've worked for ING a long time. It is not easy to do something global. It's changing, but it's changing because all of a sudden people are working together globally and making it a reality. And that's why I think that communities, and we've been doing that quite a bit now for the last few years, are really the solution to getting people to actually like working together across boundaries, across country borders, because sometimes, we're in Germany, it's sometimes really hard for Dutch and Germans to work together. But after a while, when you meet them, actually we have a lot in common. We're pretty much the same kind of people. But unless you go there and you meet them and you go and you don't say, you have to do this, I dictate it because I'm the boss. No, guys, you know better than me, you make it work, I'll accept whatever you guys think of. And that, I think, was one of the keys for success.
yeah, Alex played a big part. So the guy not being here was supposed to cover that part, but thank you for joining me.
If I can add one more thing, sorry guys, it's going to be an IT show now.
And the presentation ends up in the community.
The other one thing is also stolen from the Apache community, that is, if you contribute, you are working. And so if you don't, if you just sit in the room and sit there and say, oh yeah, my manager sent me, but actually I have no time, I'm just here, or yeah, I like to talk a lot, but actually I don't deliver, then you're not part of the community. If you are there and you want to contribute and you make this time, then you're part of the community. That's how he became the community lead, just because he said, I'm going to do it, are you guys okay with it? And he had the time and he did it. So that's one thing that we really took from open source in this meritocracy of you have to be there, you have to show up, and then you're worth something to us. If you're just there to sit and look, you're not of value.
Can you explain a bit about the incentives of the sponsors? You said it was also like a mandate for the management, some sponsors were giving the hackathon away, what was the story behind that?
The story behind that was, and he's smiling already, he's one of them, so. The incentive was there, together with the data lake architecture being developed, there were a lot of techniques in there. We had old-fashioned techniques at the big data warehouses, which were perfectly tuned for running a job, but they were working on it for 3 days to get the job running and perform actually. Seeing the new stuff happening in the open source community, or having the open source community pop up, not having any knowledge on that, being a very classical IT organization. As Ferd said, very distributed, because each country had their own IT department, and usually, if they had to select a product, it was, what does the other one have? Then I'll take the other one, the opposite one. So getting people in that new inventive technology, and therefore also participating in the success of implementing the data lake architecture the coming years ahead. That was the incentive, at least from that perspective, to start the community. And there are, of course, the people there are very scarce resources. Having good engineers across countries working together. Right?
Did the engineers from the different countries outside of the meetings, the meetups, or the also collaborate? It was not officially arranged, etc. One question mark. And if yes, then did you provide, or is it already there, technology to communicate across borders? Have the basic stuff, Microsoft Link or SharePoint?
Fortunately, the communication channels were there. You always have email and phones and stuff like that. But indeed, we have Skype, we have Link, we have a common European desktop system, which basically gives every country within Europe the same facilities. Out of time. So yes, I'll talk a bit louder just to finish the sentence. Yes, we did. There's an active communication, especially having the French benefits of he already did it, or knowing each other what you did. We also have a reporting of all the existing environments within ING on that sharing page, so everybody can see each other's status. And the facilities are already there, given by our workplace services department to do cooperation. And the orange sharing has a storyboard and everything. You can ask your questions there. So.